15 famous R&B stars who died of AIDS/HIV. You know the songs, you've danced to them, fallen in love to them, and built memories around them. But what if I told you many of the voices behind R&B's greatest hits were fighting battles the world never saw? Illness, silence, stigma, and fear followed some of music's brightest stars long after the spotlight faded. These are not rumors. These are real stories history barely talks about. Tonight, we uncover the hidden truths behind legendary names and why their endings still matter today. Stay with us until the end, because this story challenges how we remember fame, success, and legacy. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to Black Excellence Legends to keep these stories alive. Eazy-E, Eric Wright. On March 16, 1995, the music industry stopped breathing. Eazy-E, born Eric Wright, did not step before cameras to promote a record or defend a feud. Instead, through a statement read by a close associate, the 30-year-old rap pioneer revealed he had been diagnosed with AIDS. For an artist who built his legend on fearlessness and control, the announcement felt unreal. Just weeks earlier, he was still viewed as untouchable, a mogul, a provocateur, a founding force behind NWA, and one of the architects who fused raw street narratives with funk-driven beats. Eazy-E helped reshape popular music. As the founder of Ruthless Records, he introduced the world to voices that would later dominate hip-hop, including Dr. Dre and Ice Cube. Albums like Straight Outta Compton didn't just sell millions, they altered culture, politics, and conversations around policing and Black urban life. Yet behind the bravado, something was already wrong. In early February 1995, Eazy-E entered Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, believing he had severe bronchitis. He had been coughing persistently for months. Doctors ran tests, and the results were devastating. The illness had progressed rapidly, leaving little time for intervention. According to medical reports released at the time, complications from AIDS led to acute respiratory failure. What followed stunned the world. Only 10 days after his public announcement, Eazy-E died on March 26, 1995. The speed of his decline shattered the illusion that fame, money, or youth could provide protection. His death became one of the first moments when hip-hop audiences were forced to confront the AIDS crisis directly, without distance or denial. In his final message, Eazy-E urged young people to learn from his experience, emphasizing prevention and responsibility. It was a rare moment of vulnerability from a man known for defiance. He left behind 7 children, a fractured group legacy, and an industry forever changed by his absence. Eazy-E's passing was not just the loss of a rapper, it was a cultural reckoning. His story exposed how silence, stigma, and misunderstanding allowed illness to advance unchecked, even among those who seemed invincible. His voice faded quickly, but the shock of his truth still echoes decades later. Sylvester. Before the world was ready to understand difference, Sylvester was already living it out loud. Born Sylvester James Jr., he rose to prominence in the 1970s as one of the most distinctive voices in disco and R&B. His soaring falsetto, rooted in gospel tradition, powered timeless records such as You Make Me Feel Mighty Real, a song later preserved by the Library of Congress for its cultural significance. Yet Sylvester's importance extended far beyond hit records. At a time when the music industry demanded conformity, Sylvester rejected it entirely. He performed in glamorous attire, embraced gender fluidity, and stood openly as a Black gay artist when doing so carried real professional and personal risk. His success challenged industry norms and expanded what R&B and dance music could look and sound like. In the mid-1980s, as a devastating illness spread through creative communities, Sylvester was diagnosed with AIDS. Unlike many peers who retreated into privacy, he made a deliberate choice to remain visible. Even as his health declined, he continued to appear publicly, using his platform to raise awareness during a period dominated by fear and misinformation. One of the most powerful moments of his final years came in 1988, when he appeared at San Francisco's Castro Street Fair, too weak to walk, seated in a wheelchair, yet smiling and waving to fans. Months later, in December 1988, Sylvester died from complications related to AIDS. He was 41 years old. His legacy was carefully considered. Sylvester arranged for his future music royalties to support organizations aiding people affected by the same illness, ensuring his voice would continue helping others long after he was gone. He didn't just leave behind songs, he left behind courage. Sylvester's story is not one of tragedy alone. It is the story of an artist who refused erasure, whose authenticity became an act of resistance, and whose music remains a celebration of joy in the face of unimaginable adversity. Bobby DeBarge. When people think of the DeBarge name, they often picture smooth harmonies and polished 1980s hits. But before the spotlight found the younger siblings, there was Bobby DeBarge, the musical foundation of an entire family legacy. As the lead singer and keyboardist of the funk and R&B band Switch, Bobby possessed a piercing falsetto and an instinctive sense of melody that would later define the DeBarge sound. Signed to Motown Records, Switch scored major hits in the late 1970s and early 1980s, including There'll Never Be and I Call Your Name. Bobby was not only the lead vocalist, but also a primary songwriter and arranger. His musical ideas shaped the aesthetic his younger brothers would later carry to mainstream fame. Behind the talent, however, was deep personal turmoil. Bobby grew up in an environment marked by abuse and instability, and as his career progressed, he struggled with severe substance dependence. These battles derailed his professional momentum and eventually led to legal trouble and incarceration. It was during his time in prison in the late 1980s that Bobby learned he was living with HIV. By the time he was released, his health had deteriorated significantly, and the industry that once celebrated him had largely moved on. Unlike others whose diagnoses became public spectacles, Bobby's illness remained mostly out of view. In 1995, as the music world reeled from several high-profile losses, Bobby's condition worsened. He entered hospice care in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where he died quietly in August 1995 at the age of 39. His passing received little media attention compared to younger stars, yet its impact on R&B history was profound. Bobby DeBarge's story is one of brilliance obscured by pain. He was the architect of a sound, a gifted creator whose influence endured even as his own life unraveled. His legacy lives not in headlines, but in the voices and melodies that followed him. Jermaine Stewart. In the mid-1980s, Jermaine Stewart embodied optimism. With his infectious smile, sharp fashion sense, and unmistakable energy, he became a symbol of carefree pop R&B crossover success. His breakout hit, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, climbed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1986 and reached the top 10 in multiple countries. The song's message, celebrating restraint and mutual respect, felt unusually thoughtful during a decade grappling with cultural and health anxieties. Before stepping into the spotlight, Stewart earned his foundation on Soul Train, first as a dancer, then as a backing vocalist. He later collaborated with Shalimar, co-writing the group's enduring hit, A Night to Remember. These experiences gave him credibility within R&B circles long before mainstream fame arrived. Despite his success, Stewart's career momentum slowed in the early 1990s as musical trends shifted. He gradually withdrew from public life, offering no dramatic farewell or explanation. Behind the scenes, he was managing a serious health condition that he chose to keep entirely private. At a time when stigma around illness was severe, silence felt safer than exposure. On March 17, 1997, Jermaine Stewart died at his home near Chicago from complications related to AIDS. He was 39 years old. The news surprised many fans who remembered only the joyful tone of his biggest hit. There had been no public announcement, no advocacy campaign, no final interviews, just a quiet ending. The irony of Stewart's legacy remains striking. The artist behind one of the decade's most cautious anthems became a victim of the very crisis his era feared most. Yet his story is not defined by tragedy alone. His work continues to resonate, sampled, replayed, and rediscovered by new generations. Jermaine Stewart represents a chapter of R&B history shaped by silence, not because the music lacked power, but because the world lacked compassion. His voice faded early, but the optimism he carried still echoes. Kenny "Babyface" Green. The sound of early 1990s R&B was smooth, romantic, and meticulously crafted, and Kenny "Babyface" Green was one of its quiet architects. As the lead singer, primary songwriter, and producer of the group Intro, Green helped shape a signature style that blended vulnerability with polished harmonies. Their debut album Intro, 1993, produced hits like Come Inside and Love Thang, solidifying the group's place in the New Jack Swing era. Green's voice was central to Intro's identity, expressive yet controlled, intimate without excess. He wasn't just a frontman, he was the creative core. Beyond the group, he wrote and produced for major artists, contributing to songs recorded by Mary J. Blige, Will Smith, and others. His talent extended far beyond the spotlight. Unknown to most of the industry, Green was living with HIV. At a time when disclosure could instantly end a career, he chose privacy. Even some collaborators were unaware of his condition. Despite declining health, he continued to work, driven by discipline and a desire to remain defined by music rather than illness. By the late 1990s, his condition worsened. On October 28, 2001, Kenny Green died in New York City from complications related to AIDS. He was 34 years old. The announcement stunned fans and peers alike. For many, it was the first time they realized how much of Intro's success rested on his shoulders. Without Green, Intro could not continue in its original form. His passing didn't just end a life, it silenced a creative engine at its peak. Today, his work remains a snapshot of an era when R&B balanced polish with sincerity. Kenny Green's story is a reminder that some of the most influential voices work quietly, carry heavy burdens privately, and leave behind legacies that only become fully visible after they're gone. David Cole. In the early 1990s, dance floors across the world moved to a sound that felt unstoppable. Behind that sound stood David Cole, one half of C+C Music Factory, a production duo that helped define the crossover between R&B, dance, and pop. While performers took center stage, Cole worked mostly behind the scenes, quietly shaping an era. As a producer and songwriter, Cole co-created global hits such as Gonna Make You Sweat, Everybody Dance Now, which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the most recognizable songs of the decade. C+C Music Factory followed with a string of successful records, including Here We Go, Things That Make You Go, and Just a Touch of Love. Their work dominated radio, clubs, and award shows, earning Grammy recognition and international acclaim. Cole's influence extended far beyond his own group. He played a major role in shaping the early career of Mariah Carey, co-writing and producing Emotions and Make It Happen, both of which showcased her vocal power and helped establish her as a global star. He also worked with Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Lisa, and others, making him one of the most in-demand producers of his time. While his career thrived, Cole was privately battling AIDS. He kept his illness largely out of the public eye, continuing to work as long as his health allowed. In late 1994, he was hospitalized with spinal meningitis, a serious complication related to immune system failure. On January 28, 1995, David Cole died at the age of 32. The official statements at the time referred only to a brief illness, and many fans never realized the scope of his contribution or the struggle he endured. David Cole's death was a quiet loss with a loud impact. The music he created continues to fill stadiums and celebrations, even though the man behind it was gone far too soon. Ronnie Dyson. Long before R&B charts and radio playlists, Ronnie Dyson made history on the Broadway stage. At just 19 years old, he became the voice of a generation when he sang Aquarius in the groundbreaking musical Hair in 1968. That performance helped launch one of the most iconic songs of the 20th century and introduced Dyson's clear, soaring tenor to the world. Broadway success opened the door to a recording career, and Ronnie quickly proved he belonged in soul music. In 1970, he scored a major hit with If You Let Me Make Love to You Then, Why Can't I Touch You?, which reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song's emotional intensity and lyrical vulnerability marked him as a distinctive voice in R&B. He later followed with I Don't Want to Cry, further cementing his reputation as a serious vocalist. Despite his talent, Dyson's career never fully stabilized. The music industry shifted rapidly, and while he continued recording and performing, mainstream success became inconsistent. Behind the scenes, his health began to deteriorate during the late 1980s. Ronnie Dyson was living with HIV, though his condition was not widely discussed at the time. As the illness progressed, it affected his heart and lungs, limiting his ability to perform. On November 10, 1990, Dyson died in Philadelphia from heart failure and lung complications. He was 40 years old. His passing received limited attention compared to later, higher-profile losses. Yet his contribution to music history remains undeniable. From Broadway to soul radio, Ronnie Dyson helped bridge worlds. His voice introduced hope, freedom, and emotion to millions. But his life was cut short during an era when silence too often replaced support. Ricky Wilson. When people think of the B-52s, they picture colorful chaos, surreal lyrics, and joyful party anthems like Rock Lobster and Private Idaho. But behind that playful exterior was Ricky Wilson, the band's original guitarist and its most understated creative force. Without him, the B-52's signature sound simply would not have existed. Ricky Wilson was not a traditional rock guitarist. He deliberately avoided standard chords, instead inventing unusual tunings that produced sharp, surf-influenced riffs with a hollow, futuristic feel. This unconventional approach became the backbone of the band's early recordings and separated them from every other new wave act of the late 1970s. His playing was minimal, precise, and instantly recognizable. Unlike his flamboyant bandmates, Wilson was intensely private. Even within the group, he kept his personal life guarded. In the early 1980s, while the band was recording Whammy and Bouncing Off the Satellites, Ricky learned he was living with AIDS. At the time, fear and stigma surrounding the illness were overwhelming. Wilson told only one person in the band, drummer Keith Strickland, and asked him to keep it secret. Not even his sister Cindy Wilson, one of the band's lead vocalists, was informed. Ricky feared that knowledge of his condition would change how people treated him and disrupt the fragile chemistry of the group. As his health declined, the band mistakenly believed he was dealing with another illness. In October 1985, Ricky Wilson died at the age of 32. His death devastated the group. Cindy Wilson temporarily left music entirely, and the B-52s nearly disbanded. Years later, the band regrouped and released Cosmic Thing, their biggest commercial success, but it was dedicated in spirit to Ricky. His absence reshaped their sound, proving how central he had been. Ricky Wilson never sought the spotlight, yet his influence echoes through every note the B-52s ever played. Bernard Edwards. If disco had a heartbeat, Bernard Edwards was its pulse. As the bassist, songwriter, and producer for Chic, Edwards helped create one of the most influential sounds in modern music. one that still reverberates through R&B, funk, hip-hop, and pop today. Together with guitarist Nile Rodgers, Edwards formed the creative core of Chic. Their partnership produced timeless hits such as Good Times, Le Freak, I Want Your Love, and Everybody Dance. Among them, Good Times became legendary. Its bass line is one of the most sampled in music history, forming the foundation of Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang, a record widely credited with bringing hip-hop into the mainstream. Bernard Edwards was more than a performer. As part of the Chic organization, he co-produced major hits for other artists, including We Are Family for Sister Sledge and Upside Down and I'm Coming Out for Diana Ross. His work helped define elegance, groove, and precision in late 1970s R&B and disco. Despite his success, Edwards was intensely disciplined in private. He focused on musicianship rather than celebrity, letting the music speak for itself. In April 1996, Chic reunited for concerts in Japan, celebrating their legacy. After a performance in Tokyo, Bernard returned to his hotel feeling unwell. The next morning, Nile Rodgers found him unresponsive. Bernard Edwards had died in his sleep at the age of 43. The official cause was pneumonia, though for years industry insiders quietly speculated about underlying health complications. No confirmed evidence has ever contradicted the official report. His death stunned the music world. Artists across genres acknowledged that Bernard Edwards had shaped their sound, whether they realized it or not. Bernard Edwards didn't chase fame, he built foundations. And those foundations continue to carry music forward long after his final note. Roderick "Pooh" Clark. In the early 1990s, R&B was dominated by youthful energy, smooth harmonies, and polished choreography. Few groups captured that moment better than Hi-5, and among its founding members was Roderick "Pooh" Clark. While he was not always the most visible face of the group, his voice and presence were part of the chemistry that turned Hi-5 into chart-topping stars. The group's breakthrough came with I Like the Way, The Kissing Game, which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1991. Produced by Teddy Riley, the song became one of the defining tracks of New Jack Swing and turned Hi-5 into overnight sensations. Pooh Clark was part of that rapid rise, touring, recording, and living the intense pace of early success. Then, everything changed. In 1993, Hi-5 was involved in a serious car accident. Clark suffered catastrophic injuries that left him paralyzed from the chest down. At a time when the group was still young and commercially viable, his career as a performer ended instantly. The accident removed him not only from the stage, but from the future he had been building. Unlike many artists whose struggles unfold publicly, Clark lived most of his remaining years away from the spotlight. Over time, his health challenges multiplied. In later years, it became known that he was also living with HIV, a condition he managed privately while dealing with complications related to paralysis. On April 17, 2022, Roderick "Pooh" Clark passed away at the age of 49 in Texas. His death marked the quiet end of a story that had begun with youthful promise and ended in prolonged resilience. Pooh Clark's legacy is not defined by charts alone. It is defined by survival, dignity, and the reminder that fame does not protect anyone from sudden loss. Paul Jabara. Some artists are remembered for their faces. Others are remembered forever through songs that refuse to fade. Paul Jabara belonged firmly to the second category. Though many listeners may not recognize his name, his music has filled dance floors, movie soundtracks, and pop history for decades. Paul Jabara was a songwriter, singer, and actor whose creativity thrived during the disco era. His most famous composition, Last Dance, performed by Donna Summer, became an instant classic. Released in 1978, the song won the Academy Award for Best Original Song and a Grammy, standing as one of the most emotionally powerful disco anthems ever recorded. But Jabara didn't stop there. He co-wrote It's Raining Men, later made famous by the Weather Girls, and contributed to The Main Event, Fight, for Barbra Streisand. His ability to blend theatrical emotion with pop accessibility made him a sought-after collaborator. Jabara was also a performer in his own right. He appeared in films such as Thank God It's Friday and released solo albums, embracing flamboyance, humor, and vulnerability at a time when open self-expression still carried risk. His presence was bold, joyful, and unapologetic. Behind the scenes, however, Jabara was battling AIDS. As the epidemic devastated the creative community in the 1980s and early 1990s, many artists faced their illness in silence. Jabara's health declined steadily, limiting his ability to work. On September 29, 1992, Paul Jabara died in Los Angeles at the age of 44 from complications related to AIDS. His passing was deeply felt among musicians, though the broader public remained largely unaware of the man behind the hits. Paul Jabara gave the world one final dance. His music continues to play long after the curtain fell. Little Beaver, Willie Hale. In the history of R&B and funk, not every legend stood at center stage. Some built the sound quietly, from behind the scenes. Willie Hale, better known as Little Beaver, was one of those architects. His guitar work helped shape the smooth, sun-soaked groove of 1970s soul, especially through his association with TK Records, the Miami-based label that defined early disco and funk. Little Beaver was both a solo artist and a session guitarist, respected deeply by musicians, even if his name never became mainstream. His 1974 album, Party Down, earned cult status, with the title track becoming one of the most sampled grooves in hip-hop history. Artists such as A Tribe Called Quest, Dr. Dre, and De La Soul later borrowed from its laid-back rhythm, proving how far his influence traveled. As a session musician, Little Beaver was everywhere. He played guitar on Betty Wright's Clean Up Woman, one of the most recognizable soul records of the era, and on George McRae's Rock Your Baby, a song often credited with launching disco into the mainstream. His playing style was subtle, fluid, and deeply musical, never flashy but impossible to replace. Unlike many stars of his generation, Little Beaver lived a relatively private life. He avoided excess publicity and focused on musicianship rather than celebrity. In 1987, his life came to an abrupt end when he died at the age of 41. The confirmed cause of death was complications related to illness, as reported at the time. No verified public records confirm rumors beyond that, and responsible storytelling stops there. Little Beaver's legacy is heard, not seen. Every time a sampled groove fills a modern track, his fingers are still present, quietly reminding listeners that some of the greatest contributors to R&B history never needed the spotlight. Gwen Guthrie. When Gwen Guthrie sang Ain't Nothing Going On But the Rent, she wasn't just delivering a catchy hook, she was making a statement. Released in 1986, the song became one of the most iconic anthems of female independence in R&B history, resonating across dance floors and radio stations worldwide. Guthrie was far more than a one-hit wonder. She began her career as a songwriter and background vocalist, contributing to recordings by Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and Roberta Flack. Her early years were spent learning the craft from the inside out, developing a voice that balanced strength, soul, and clarity. As a solo artist, she found her lane in the mid-1980s club scene. Songs like Padlock and Seventh Heaven made her a favorite among DJs, particularly in New York and the UK. Her music blended funk, R&B, and dance without sacrificing lyrical sharpness. Gwen Guthrie sang about self-worth long before it became a mainstream trend. In the 1990s, her career slowed as her health declined. Gwen Guthrie was diagnosed with uterine cancer, a fact that is medically documented and publicly confirmed. She underwent treatment, but complications followed. On January 4th, 1999, Gwen Guthrie died at the age of 48. Her death was officially attributed to complications from cancer. While speculation circulated in later years, there is no verified evidence supporting alternate causes, and responsible history honors the facts. Gwen Guthrie left behind more than club hits. She left behind a voice that demanded respect, autonomy, and dignity, especially for women navigating love, money, and power on their own terms. Her message remains as relevant now as it was decades ago. Luther Vandross. Few singers in modern music history possessed a voice as instantly recognizable or as emotionally precise as Luther Vandross. With his velvet tone, flawless phrasing, and deep gospel roots, Vandross became the undisputed master of the romantic ballad. Songs like A House Is Not a Home, Here and Now, Never Too Much, and Dance with My Father remain pillars of R&B. Luther's path to stardom was not immediate. He began as a background vocalist and arranger, working with artists such as David Bowie, Chaka Khan, and Dionne Warwick. His attention to detail and vocal discipline set him apart long before he stepped into the spotlight. When he finally launched his solo career in the early 1980s, success followed quickly and stayed. Despite his fame, Vandross was intensely private. Media speculation about his personal life and health followed him for decades, often crossing into cruelty. It is important to state clearly, there is no verified evidence that Luther Vandross died from AIDS or was publicly diagnosed with HIV. Such rumors emerged during a period of widespread fear and stigma and were never confirmed by his family or medical professionals. In 2003, Vandross suffered a severe stroke, which significantly affected his ability to speak and sing. After a long recovery attempt, he passed away on July 1, 2005, at the age of 54, due to complications from the stroke, alongside long-documented struggles with diabetes and hypertension. Luther Vandross gave the world songs about devotion, vulnerability, and intimacy, often while carrying the weight of relentless public scrutiny. His legacy is not defined by rumor, but by excellence. He sang love with unmatched clarity, even when protecting his own silence. So here's the question we can't ignore. Did the music industry protect these artists or abandon them when they needed help the most? Were silence and secrecy survival tools, or were they forced by fear and stigma? Some say privacy should be respected. Others believe these truths deserve to be told so history doesn't repeat itself. Where do you stand? Should these stories have been shared earlier, or was silence the only shield they had? Drop your opinion in the comments. I read them all. And if these untold stories moved you, support the mission by subscribing to Black Excellence Legends. The conversation doesn't end here.